Welcome everyone, happy Friday. And thank you so much for joining me this morning. My name is Michelle. I am a registered dietitian and owner of a nutrition practice, Sensibly Sprouted. We have one location here in Bellingham and our second location in Smoky Point, where we have a team of dietitians that help our patients with whatever their health and wellness goals are. So we have patients that are coming to us looking for a healthier relationship with food, where others have more pinpointed goals, looking for specific weight loss goals, or trying to lower, let's say, A1Cs if diabetes is a concern, helping to improve those cholesterol panels to improve heart health. So our team is specialized in a variety of different nutrition topics and concerns. And for anyone that is looking to work with a dietitian, I have our information at the end of this presentation. And a really cool thing about Washington State is many of the insurance policies through the state have amazing benefits for nutrition, where the majority of our patients actually have no cost to them out of pocket. So it's something really nice, and a lot of people don't know about, even physicians. So for those of you that are interested in working alongside a dietitian, we got your back. Stick around to the end of the presentation or jot down the email and we can help verify those benefits for you and get you started on your own wellness journey. But if it's okay with you, I'm ready to start hosting and jumping into my presentation. Perfect. So I'm going to share my screen and we are going to get started. Perfect. Let's see. Here we go. And then I am going to move you guys over and present. So today's topic is talking all about plant-based eating. And I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like the pandemic caused two different reactions in some of my patients and in some of the patients that my fellow dietitians work with. And it's either patients became really aware and really attuned because they wanted to have the healthiest immune systems that they can in order to combat, the sickness, the illness that was going around, or it was more along the lines of kind of like apathy, really getting bogged down by the news and what was going on in the country and what's going on in the world. And nutrition and health kind of took a backseat because of everyone's mental and emotional state. So my goal for this presentation is, how do we kind of bring you back to center? What are some of the different foods? What are some of the different tips that we can use to bring a little bit more balance into your life, the plant-based way, to help give your immune system a boost? And for those of us that might not be at that ideal weight as a result of the pandemic, whether we gained weight or lost weight, the goal is to help bring you back to center. So with that being said, I already gave a little introduction of Sensibly Sprouted, who I am and who my team is. And to give you guys some faces to those dietitians, here are the amazing girls, amazing women that I work with. We're all dietitians, state and certified. So like I said, for anyone that's looking to work with someone to help guide them towards their goals, we got your backs. So what can you expect from this presentation? Normally when I give this talk, it's about an hour, hour and a half. So it was like taking the slides and getting rid of my children. Which ones go in a 30-minute presentation? So I'm trying to give you guys the information that I feel like you need in order to follow a very balanced, healthful, plant-based diet. So we're going to talk about, is very briefly, the benefits of that whole food, plant-based way of eating, and what are the components that I'm talking about when I mention plant-based diets. Then I want to also touch and highlight those nutrients that need that extra attention, that extra TLC as we age. And spoiler alert, it's not just individuals that are aging that follow a plant-based diet that have to worry or plan ahead for these nutrients. They affect everyone, no matter what type of diet or lifestyle you follow. So with that, let's get started into the benefits of plant-based eating. So why are so many physicians, dietitians, why are so many people moving towards following a mostly plant-based diet? Well, the research is stacking up with all of the benefits. Number one, improving the outcomes when it comes to heart health. Whether you're looking to reduce your blood pressure, improve your cholesterol panels, what we're finding is that when we increase the volume of whole plant-based foods in the diet, we tend to bring those numbers and lab results back into balance, which is really great too, which our next point is those that follow a plant-based diet are able to more likely than not reduce their need of pharmaceuticals or medications. So a lot of times individuals will come to me and they're sick of all the pills they have to take. They want to get off of them. And this is one of the ways that we can do it safely with your physician's knowledge, little bit by little bit. But this is also one of the outcomes you can see following this way of eating and living. So with that in mind, we can also see the reversal of heart disease as well as type 2 diabetes, which is amazing. And in as little as 3 months, we've had patients see amazing improvement in their diabetic markers, specifically their A1C number. Also, studies tend to show that individuals that follow this way of eating tend to naturally have better weight management. So this means not only weight loss, but weight gain for individuals that have struggled to keep the weight on, which might be counterintuitive because for some people, one of the concerns to me is I'm already underweight. How can I follow a plant-based diet and be expected to put weight on? But when working with a registered dietitian that understands the unique combinations of food, you can in fact reach that healthy weight, and in doing so without increasing your cholesterol or increasing your blood pressure, which tends to happen when individuals try to put weight on quickly on their own. So why do we notice these amazing improvements as we increase the amount of plants on our plate? Well, plant foods have two specific components that are unique to them. So we have phytonutrients and fiber. And I'm sure everyone knows fiber. The research has been coming out for decades on the benefits of fiber and the importance of it in our diet. But the new area that we're constantly finding more about is this area right here, our phytonutrients. And these are more better known as antioxidants, for example. So antioxidants are a group of phytonutrients. And basically what we're finding is that back in the day, we used to think of foods just as their calories. So how many calories can an avocado give us? And how much protein, carbohydrate, and fat is in that avocado? Now we know that food is so much more than just the carbs, the protein, and the fat. And food contains, specifically plant food, a unique combination of these phytonutrients. And these are defined as the non-nutritive components of food. They give plant foods their characteristics. So it's phytonutrients that give blueberries their beautiful blue color, peppers their spicy kick, and garlic its pungent odor. They are what derive the characteristics to foods, and they also provide health benefits to us. So one of the sayings that we like to preach here is we want to eat a rainbow of foods. And that's because different food groups, the different colored food groups, tend to have some of the same health benefits. So for example, foods that are blue or red, like blueberries or watermelon, tend to be great for improving the health of the heart. Whereas foods that are orange or yellow, like a butternut squash or a pumpkin, are great for the health of the eyes. Foods that are white, like mushrooms or garlic or white onion, for example, tend to be great for the health of the skin. So what we want to do is eat an array of vegetables. So this way we're able to garner the health benefits from each of these different groups. But it's these two components in specific that are thought to give plant-based diets the edge when it comes to all the health benefits we're able to witness by their consumption. And what did I just do? I am getting a call, I think. How is this? let me see, guys. One second. Let's see here how I get back to our presentation. There we go. Okay. Can you guys hear me? Perfect. Thank you. And you gotta love tech. So next up, when I'm talking about the components of that plant-powered plate, what am I talking about? Specifically, the plant foods that we're going to be covering in this presentation include your legumes, your whole grains, your vegetables, your fruits, and your nuts and your seeds. And one of the sad things is, time and time again, you will see diets that completely eliminate one or maybe all of these food groups. And it's really sad when I have patients that come to me that don't want to consume carbohydrates because, you know, carbs make you big. They don't want to consume nuts or seeds because they have too much fat. Beans, you can't have those because those are too carby. And it breaks my heart because this means that we're missing an array of those health benefits from those food groups. And instead, my goal is to help show you how we can introduce more of these foods into your diet and why they shouldn't be excluded in the first place. So first up is our legumes. So different examples of this include our lentils, our peas, our chickpeas, and my personal favorite, fava beans. And what is the name of that restaurant? For those of you that have never experienced fava beans before, I believe the name of the restaurant is Mediterranean Specialties. And they have a fava bean salad to die for. I have tried to mimic it so many times and have failed, but they do an amazing job bringing all of those Mediterranean flavors and infusing those fava beans with that. It's delicious. This group is specifically important because of course it provides fiber, but this is the group where your protein is going to be coming from when we follow a plant-based diet. You're also going to be getting a nice amount of zinc, iron, as well as calcium from this group. And calcium is one of those nutrients that we really have to be mindful of as we age, especially women. Because what ends up happening is around the time of menopause, we notice a dip or a decrease in our estrogen. And calcium synthesis and calcium, the way that the body metabolizes calcium is very tied to our estrogen stores. So as soon as women begin going through that change of menopause, we alter the way that we're able to deposit calcium into the bones. And as a result, women, especially around that menopausal age, we have to make sure that they are getting enough calcium. And one of the ways that we can do this is by making sure that their diets include a healthy dose of those beans. And tofu as well is an amazing source of calcium. So if we're following a plant-based diet, the goal would be that we aim for 3 servings of beans a day. And this would be something along the lines of a tofu scramble for breakfast, maybe a lentil bean soup for lunch, and then a black bean burger for dinner. Could be an example of how we get those 3 servings in a day. And to give you a little bit of insight too, when I'm talking about a serving, what am I talking about? I mean a half a cup of cooked beans or 4 ounces of tofu or tempeh. That is what would define your serving, and you're looking for about 3 of those a day. And sometimes I don't have a bean with one of my main courses, but instead I'll do roasted chickpeas for a snack or some hummus and crackers for a snack instead. So my goal is not necessarily to get all 3 servings of my beans or my legumes with each main meal, but just throughout the day to make sure that my protein needs are being met. So how do we increase beans? Because one of the biggest issues I hear with beans is, I don't want to eat them because they make me gassy. But there's things that we can do to combat this. Number 1, give your body time to adapt to this new food. So I like to suggest start low and go slow. Add in a couple of beans into a salad. If you're making a vegetable soup, put in a third a cup, a quarter cup of beans, and just allow your body to get used to this new food that you're introducing to it. And your body will adapt to the beans and to that gas producing compound that beans contain. But if you want to take it a step further, you totally can. And you can actually cook your beans with a piece of seaweed or a little pinch of baking soda. And that will neutralize that gas producing sugar that beans contain that we don't have an enzyme to break down. So normally I'll just throw a little piece of seaweed in with my beans, and when they're done, pull the seaweed out. I'll eat it because it's delicious, and I'll have beans that don't produce nearly as much gas. But when it comes to adding more beans to your diet for those health benefits, add them as the protein to your salad, add them to your soups, or eat them alone as snacks, like some roasted chickpeas or roasted fava beans. I might be biased, but those are the most delicious beans out there. And then we have our whole grains and our cereals. And this is probably one of the groups that's vilified the most, but there's so many amazing benefits when we include whole grains in the diet. So what are some examples? Well, some of my favorite are sprouted whole grain breads, brown rice, flour, oats, millet, and quinoa, not to mention couscous, which has to be one of the easiest grains that you can cook. But one of the reasons that we want to make sure that we're including grains in the diet, again, is for that fiber, but also the complex carbohydrates that they contain. And I'm sure that everyone now has heard of probiotics. Those are the beneficial bacteria that live in our gut and help to make sure that we maintain our health. But we also have to think about prebiotics, and what prebiotics are. It's the food for those probiotics. And in the American diet, whole grains tend to be the #1 food source for our probiotics. So we want to make sure, and what studies suggest is that individuals that consume not just grains, but whole grains and a variety of whole grains tend to have more well-established and healthy colonies of that beneficial bacteria, those probiotics. So we want to make sure that we don't remove this group, but instead add variety. The issue with this group is the serving size. So what ends up happening is a lot of my patients that are looking for weight loss, they tell me, Michelle, I just took out my carbs and I've lost 12 pounds in 2 weeks. And yeah, because this means that a lot of people took out the big sub sandwiches or the big bowls of pasta or maybe a big pizza. But instead, let's focus on those whole foods, those whole grains, and stick to these serving sizes. So what we're looking for is about 4 servings of our whole grains a day at a half a cup cooked. So for example, a half a cup of brown rice or half a cup of cooked quinoa, a half a cup of cooked barley or bulgur wheat. Those would be examples. But if you're looking for dry cereal, like let's say that you're doing an overnight oat recipe or that you're doing wheat bran for breakfast, it increases to about 3/4 cup that you're allotted for your dry. And I want to just go over quick nutrition when it comes to the whole grain and why it's so important to include more whole grains in your diet than just regular grains and the refined option. And that's because the whole grain is whole nutrition. When we have the whole grain, we have this bran layer, the outer hull, where it's full of those essential B vitamins as well as a plethora of minerals. We also have the germ in the whole grain, and this is where you find healthy fats and those phytochemicals that I talked about earlier, also your vitamin E. But what we see here is when we're dealing with refined grains, like let's say a white bread, a white pasta, a white rice, all that we're left with is this endosperm, which is the carbohydrate portion with very little protein, vitamin, and no antioxidant material left over. So this is why it's very important to focus on the whole grain. And this doesn't mean that we always 100% have to do this. So for example, when I'm going out to sushi and I'm getting my avocado roll, I tend to do 1 avocado roll white rice, 1 avocado roll brown rice, and I enjoy both and the health benefits that come from my roll with the brown rice. Next up, we have our vegetables, and this group is full of so many different options. We have our lettuce, our sweet potato, our squash, our beets, you name it, it's here. And this group is also vital when it comes to iron as well as calcium. We want to make sure that we are including green leafy vegetables as often as we can, because these are the calcium powerhouses when it comes to the vegetable world. And this would include things like mustard greens, collard greens, kale, even your spinach. So we want to make sure that we have a healthy dose of greens. And my personal goal is normally with lunch and dinner, it is a must that my plate is going to have, whether it's broccoli, collard greens, kale, and breakfast. I'm okay if I don't, but I still try to make it a goal. I'm just not as hard on myself. Now, with these guys, we're aiming for about 5 servings of vegetables a day at a minimum. But the research tells us that in order to get the widespread benefits of all the antioxidants that we have, we're looking for really 7 servings of vegetables a day. But we want to keep that adage in mind, start low and go slow. Because if we start too quickly, this is a lot of fiber to introduce to your gut at one time, and it could lead to some GI discomfort. So we want to make sure that we start low, go slow, and keep in mind that some vegetables tend to be more gas producing than others. So vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, these are vegetables that belong to a group called the cruciferous vegetables, and they tend to have more gas producing compounds in them than the rest. So if you're new to the world of vegetables or really wanting to up your vegetable game, be cautious with that group and really be mindful of starting low and going slow to give your gut time to adapt to those specific foods, because they can pack quite a punch if you're not used to eating them in large quantities. So serving sizes for this group include 1 cup of raw vegetables and a half a cup of cooked. So how do we get more vegetables in our diets? Stir fries are a fantastic way of using whatever vegetables you have, throwing them into your pan or your wok, cooking them up, and enjoying whatever it is you have. Salads also. Salads don't have to just be lettuce. We could chop up any raw vegetables that we're looking for and toss them into a salad, especially during summer days when I'm not really looking for those heavy, hot meals. Salads with cold vegetables and a nice dressing normally are just the thing that I need in order to feel full but not bogged down in the summer heat. And then there's smoothies. So I have some patients that are like, Michelle, I'm not having anything green. I'm not ready for that. Throw it in a smoothie. Have your smoothie, your protein powder, maybe some strawberries, some banana, and then throw in some spinach leaves or throw in some kale leaves. I had a patient tell me, I don't like the color that it turns. Throw in some cauliflower. And you're really not going to taste it, but you're going to get all the benefits of those vegetables inside of that smoothie. And then snacks. I love dehydrating cauliflower, broccoli, carrots, and sweet potato and having them as snacks next to my little beans during my day, because they're easy. I can make them in bulk and I have enough that can last me a week or two. And again, they're full of fiber. So I feel nice and satiated and full when I'm done with them. And then we have our fruits. And fruits are more than just the sweetness that they provide. They also provide fiber, antioxidants. This is one of the group that we can get the most vitamin C from, which is amazing as a free radical fighter in our bodies. They're full of vitamins, minerals, and when it comes to calcium, we want to give a special shout out to orange juice as well as figs. These tend to be the calcium powerhouses when it comes to fruit. And hold on, I'm admitting someone, there we go. These tend to be the calcium powerhouses when it comes to fruit. So you'll notice though, that with the vegetable recommendation, we were looking at about 5 servings of vegetables a day, but with fruits, we're looking at 3. And this is because fruits do have more sugar than vegetables. So although we do want to make sure that we're getting a nice variety of fruit, we still want the vegetable ratio to fruit ratio to be in favor of the vegetables, because we're going to get all those antioxidants for less when it comes to the amount of sugar that vegetables introduce to our diet compared to fruit. So when it comes to fruit, another thing to keep in mind are the serving sizes. So in the supermarkets, you can see a banana that's like this big, or an apple that's like this big, or an orange that's like this big. But really what you're looking for is a serving size is 1 medium-sized fruit. So in many cases, these bananas, these oranges, these apples can be 2 servings or even 3 servings I've seen because of the sheer size of the fruit. So it's important to be mindful if we are watching our fruit to stay on top of it, especially if we're dealing with blood sugar issues. And if blood sugar stabilization is a concern, we want to make sure that we're always having fruit with some sort of protein associated with it to help stabilize those blood sugars even more. So, for example, having an apple or banana with some peanut butter is a great pairing, not just for satiety, but for helping to stabilize those blood glucose levels. And how do we increase fruits in a piecemeal kind of fashion? Well, fruits can be amazing in salads, like adding some strawberries or blueberries for some flavor. Also, smoothies come into play here, especially for people like me, where I don't really have a sweet tooth, I have a salt tooth. So for me, how I tend to enjoy my fruit is in my morning smoothie. And then snacks. I don't know if you guys have ever tried the just mango at Trader Joe's. All it is dried mango, and it is like eating candy. It is an amazing snack, and I pair it normally with some almonds or some cashews for that protein pairing, and it is amazing, satiating. But be careful, because with a lot of dried fruits, you'll see that also apple juice is added as a sweetener. So when you're buying dried fruit, turn the package over, make sure that the only ingredient in that dried fruit is the dried fruit, nothing else is added, and you know that you have a good option at your disposal. And then we also have our nuts and our seeds. And in this category, specifically for those that follow 100% plant-based living, walnuts and hemp seeds really tend to reign supreme here because of the fact that they also contain those healthy fats in the form of omega-3s. So our nuts and our seeds include protein, fiber, and those antioxidants, specifically in the form of vitamin E. Now, when it comes to our nuts and seeds, it's not that we have to shy away from them because of the calories that they contain. It just means that we have to be mindful of when we include them in our diet. We want to aim for 1 to 2 servings a day. And what I like to tell my patients, a good rule of thumb for me is normally a handful. So for me, I aim for 1 or 2 handfuls of nuts or seeds. So cashews, almonds, walnuts, Brazil nuts. And recently, there's been a lot of, I would say, popularity with Brazil nuts in specific because of their health benefits. But I want to keep in mind, this is something that I always have to share with my patients, and I want to share with you. For those of you that are after the Brazil nuts for their health benefits, we really have to limit them, because too much of the Brazil nut can actually give us too much of that selenium that they contain. So really, all we need is 2 to 3, really a week, and that's going to cover your need without getting too much of it. So how do we increase our nuts and our seeds? Number one, I love them in salads and also salad dressings. If I'm looking to make a creamier kind of salad dressing, as I'm making my cilantro and lime and putting some garlic in my blender, I'll also throw in a handful of cashews, and it makes my dressing super creamy, adds that nutty, rich flavor, and I get a little bit of protein and those healthy fats alongside of it. Also, trail mixes, like I said, I love pairing fruit and nuts together. They are the perfect combination when it comes to not just feeling full, but also helping to stabilize blood sugar levels. So that's another way that I like to incorporate those guys in my diet. And we can't talk about a healthy way of eating without talking about hydration, especially now as the summer is heating up. So water is vital for cushioning our joints, helping to remove waste products and toxins, as well as providing energy to our bodies. It's important to know that we don't have to just get water from beverages, but also adequate fruit and vegetable intake can help us to achieve healthy hydration status. Another way, of course, is having a bottle with you at all times. So for me, I tend to always have a bottle full in my room, my kitchen, my living room, my dining room. So no matter where I am, I never have an excuse, and I always have a bottle that I can drink from to make sure that I'm constantly staying hydrated, because that old adage of if you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated is true. So you want to prevent those feelings of thirst by constantly staying hydrated. So what is a quick and easy way that you can calculate what your hydration needs are? Well, you take your weight in pounds and you divide this by 2. And that gives you roughly how many ounces of water you should be aiming for each day. And this can change. So if you're outside in the hot weather, this could raise this. But also if you're being a little bit more sedentary than usual because maybe it's cold outside, this could lower this. But this tends to be the starting point for a lot of individuals for assessing how much water. But the best indicator for hydration status is the color of your urine. You're not looking for completely clear because that could mean overhydration. And you're not looking for that yellow bright color either. You're looking for a nice pale yellow color. And that's the ticket that you are at that adequate level of hydration. And that should be your indicator of when you either need to increase your water or maybe decrease a little because we could be overdoing it as well. And then there are two nutrients that we do have to consider as well that tend to just be safer when taking in that supplement form. And by safe, I mean just making sure that we're getting enough of it. And the first one up is vitamin B12 when we're talking about plant-based diets. And again, this isn't a concern just for plant-based. This is a concern for anyone over the age of 50, just because this is a very fickle little vitamin and has very specific standards for how it wants to be absorbed. And as we age, the standards in our stomach or the pH in our stomach alters from what B12 really likes. So because of that, it's normally suggested that at the age of 30, we begin supplementing this vitamin. And it's extremely important because it helps to build our DNA and protect our nerve fibers. So you can find this in some fortified foods like nutritional yeast, also some mock meat products, but we want to make sure that we're getting at least 2.4 micrograms. So we need very, very, very little, but we still need to make sure that we're getting enough. And this tends to be one that I normally always recommend supplementing with my patients. And then we have vitamin D. And vitamin D is important for everyone. I'm from South Florida and I was deficient in vitamin D. So you can only imagine how important it is that everyone, especially here in the Pacific Northwest, how important it is for them to supplement this. So we can get some from the sun, supplements, and some fortified foods, but really supplements are the only safe bet because you know exactly how much you're getting. I do want to make mention though too, before we go out and supplement, you want to make sure that you're having lab work done to see what level you're currently at so you know how much you should be supplementing. So whether we're talking about calcium, B12, vitamin D, you always want to make sure that you have these labs done. And this way you can see and come up with a plan with your doctor or your dietitian, how much you need to be supplementing and how often you should be supplementing to make sure you're not either doing too little or you're doing too much. So just some food for thought there. And then we have protein. So protein is extremely important when it comes to maintenance of our bone, our muscle, as well as all the tissues in our cells. And following a plant-based way of eating, your nuts, your seeds, your grains, your tofu, your tempeh, your protein powders are all going to deliver this essential macronutrient. So how can we determine how much protein we need? Well, we have a very simple calculation to do that. What you want to first do is take your weight and convert that to kilograms. So you take your weight in pounds and divide that by 2.2. When you have your resulting weight in kilograms, just multiply it by 0.9, or to make it even easier, just multiply it by 1. And this gives you, again, that baseline for grams per day. But again, just like I said with the water scenario, we want to make sure that we are altering that if we are underactive or overactive for that day. I also want to give you one last piece of advice. It's important whenever you're making any dietary or lifestyle changes to start low and go slow. This way you're able to build upon each small win, build up your confidence that you're doing it. And also the studies suggest that those that tend to take new goals and when they're wanting to make lifestyle changes, when we do it in that small one step at a time fashion, we tend to see the highest levels of success with those changes sticking. So take every day, one day at a time. And if you fail or don't hit your goal, it's okay. Dust yourself off and try again the next day. And for those of you that are interested in working with a dietitian to meet your goal, this is our website and our phone number. So what I'm going to do now is stop presenting. And I'm going to throw this back over to, let's see. I'm going to stop my share and there we go. And I will make the Y the host again. Perfect. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Michelle. That was great. Do we have a couple of minutes for questions real quick? Or
I have a question about avocados. Where do they fall in and how much per day?
So when it comes to avocados, they're one of the only, they're technically a fruit, and their claim to fame is that they're really the only fruit with a significant amount of protein. So when you're talking about a serving size for an avocado, what you're looking for is about a quarter of a medium-sized avocado is a serving size. So like those Florida avocados, you can get a bunch of servings off of those. But if you've ever been to Trader Joe's and you see their mini avocados, normally half of those little guys is a good serving. Or like I said, for a medium avocado, you're looking at about a quarter, and that would fit your fruit need for that day. That's a good question.
Yeah. And does that fall then under protein?
I think she had one other question. Michelle, you're muted.
So then does that,
go ahead.
So then that falls under protein or under fruit?
That could fall under fruit.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Michelle. So